Welcome, Hudson Valley, to this week's edition of In Touch, the award-winning public affairs and issues program that runs across Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley radio stations. This week's guest is Joseph Cavaccini, Dutchess County Legislator and Wappinger Town Historian. Together, Joseph and I dive into the expansive history of Dutchess County and how that history impacts us today. We invite you to join us and listen to a previously recorded conversation between Joey and myself here on In Touch. Thank you for all the kind words shared in regard to In Touch officially being awarded the 2023 New York State Broadcasters Association Award for Outstanding Public Affairs Programmer Series as part of the 57th Annual Excellence in Broadcasting Awards. This recognition would not be possible without the incredible team here at Townsquare, all of our phenomenal guests that we learn and grow with every single week, and of course you, the listener. Whether you've been listening for a while or you just found us, thank you for taking part in the conversation and staying in touch with what's going on in the Hudson Valley. We here at In Touch are all about, being in touch with what's going on in the Hudson Valley. What better way to stay in touch with what's going on than by downloading the Townsquare Media mobile app for this radio station? Not only can you listen to this station live at any time using the app, but you can also listen to In Touch on demand. Besides In Touch, you can read daily articles about news, events, entertainment, and more that's going on in your community. And when the weather gets bad, you can use the app to check on weather reports and see which roads, schools, and organizations are closed. Your Townsquare Media app is the best place for concert tickets and events as well. We're constantly giving away tickets to the hottest shows in the area. Again, you'll have access to all of this if you just download the Townsquare Media mobile app for this radio station. In Touch is nothing without the support of the hundreds of listeners that we get on a weekly basis. Thank you so much for listening and taking part in the conversation. If you listen to In Touch through a podcast service such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a positive review. With more 5-star reviews on these platforms, the algorithms will work hard to promote our show and bring In Touch to new people. That and also sharing In Touch with your friends and family is so important. Just sharing our links and listening live each Sunday goes such a long way. Thank you for all you do to stay in touch with what's going on in the Hudson Valley. Hello, Hudson Valley. You're listening to another episode of In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's award-winning public affairs and issues program. We got a great episode for you guys today, one that I'm really looking forward to. You live in an area so long, you just get so used to things around you, and you kind of take for granted some of the history behind the area. And do you really know where you come from at times? It's a very interesting question, and it's one that we are going to sit down and talk about today. I'm really excited to talk with this guy here. With us today, we have Dutchess County Legislator, Wappinger Town Historian, and just recently elected Town of Wappinger Town Supervisor, Joey Cavaccini. Joey, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Connor. Thank you so much for having me on today.
I'm really excited to have you here today, and this is also like a really good time for you as well. Big congratulations on being elected the Town Supervisor.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm still coming down from that feeling. It's something that I'm very excited to kick off and get started, and I'm still registering it at this moment right now, but I'm excited to establish a government that will work for the people in Wappinger.
That is awesome, and you're probably going to be feeling this vibe all until you start in January officially, so that's going to be great for you. So you got a lot of things under your belt. And also, you're a young guy, too. You got a lot of things under your belt at a very young age, which is really awesome to see. It's really great to see somebody your age really getting out there and taking initiative in the community, because I feel that's something that I've talked about with a lot of other guests here on In Touch, where there isn't as much engagement on a various number of things when it comes to the youth. So it's really encouraging to see you out here and doing things like this. And I think that leads me into my first question. It's a bit of a three-parter, but I'm asking it as a three-parter because I think the answer will come from a very similar place for all of them. First of all, I want to say, 1, what got you into public service? 2, what got you into history of the area? And then 3, how do both loves serve each other?
So it's definitely an intertwined three-parter because they all piggyback off of each other. What started out as a love and passion for history, as a young 9-year-old, developed into a love and passion for my hometown. Growing up, local history in general, was something I was fascinated in, just something I like to do on the side. But when I was 9 years old, I was going through an old photo album of my family's with my dad and found this old picture of great-great-uncles hunting in a place called Swartoutville. And I said, where is Swartoutville? And I come to find out and do my own research at 9, 10 years old that Swartoutville is actually my neighborhood where I live today.
Oh, wow.
And that photo was taken back in 1938, I believe. What sparked that fascination was, again, that history was right here in my backyard.
Literally.
And I found out that Swartoutville is named after the highest-ranking general in Dutchess County history, Brigadier General Jacobus Swartout, who was a avid patriot during the Revolutionary War, was very close friends and alliance with George Washington and Marquis de Lafayette, and he led the Dutchess County militia during the Revolutionary War right from my neighborhood.
Wow.
And hence the name Swartoutville, because that was all his property there. So at 12 years old, I went before the Wappinger Town Board to recognize Swartoutville with some historical signage. And a few weeks later, the former supervisor actually calls me up at home and offers me a position within the office of town historian and gives me an office at Wappinger Town Hall.
And you're 12?
And I'm 12 years old.
You're 12 years old.
And I would walk across the street almost every day from the junior high school, Wappingers Falls Junior High School, across Middlebush Road to Wappinger Town Hall.
Oh, my God.
And that's what started this long, long road into public service. And at the end of the day, I hate politics. I love my hometown, and I have a vision for the town. I want to do right by the people that live here and get things going for them. And I think, again, that young passion that started out as a 12-year-old has really fueled me to look out for Wappinger and do what's best for them.
Wow, that's incredible. And I really love that perspective that you just said there. That's really refreshing. I hate politics, but I love my community. And I think that just goes to show you that you're in it for the right things. I think there's a lot of people sometimes that feel slighted by politics, and they have a hard time going to their representatives because it's like, they don't care. What's the point? They have their agenda that they're building for themselves or for people who are lining their pockets potentially. But here you just said is like, I hate politics, but I love my hometown. And that is so cool. It's really refreshing. So 12 years old, you started this journey. Before we get into some of the history that you learned of the town and the county, let's hear some history about you. What was that like as a 12-year-old getting into something like that?
Well, it was definitely interesting, and it's been a very interesting journey over the past decade plus, now 13 years. Again, I started out as the town novelty. Oh, look at this cute kid, he's getting involved, and that has developed and flourished into something where I have now gained the respect of the people of my town, the 30,000 people that live in the great town of Wappinger. And again, it's something that I'm most proud of. At the end of the day, my neighbors get to vote for me, and I get to go to work for them.
Yeah.
And whether it's park improvements or stopping overdevelopment or just trying to sustain that quality of life that everyone loves here in the Hudson Valley and improve on that. That's what makes the job all worthwhile when you're actually helping folks.
Yeah.
That's the exciting thing there. So again, for me, starting out with these humble beginnings, now elected to the town's top spot, I really am excited to start getting things rolling, and look out for those who live there.
That'd be awesome. When you were little, as you said, you called it a novelty being, this cute little kid working on this, and you were able to build that respect. Was there any kind of opposition that you had or any kind of walls that you had to overcome during that time period? Because, as you said, it's a cute novelty, but then it's also hard to earn and gain that respect. So I'm sure that's been a long and rigorous journey throughout it at the same time, too.
Absolutely. And it's something that I'm still facing today.
Yeah.
Again, being a young person in government, I have to prove that I know what I'm talking about. And again, also like to remind folks, too, a good leader does not expect to be the smartest or brightest in the room. A good leader brings together the smartest and brightest around them and has a good team. But again, I've been doing this for 13 plus years. I've been watching, observing, just collecting all of these different things over time about how local government works, what works for certain towns, what doesn't work for different towns. I've seen administrations come and go. And I think that gives me a very unique perspective. But yes, I've definitely faced opposition. Politics is an ugly business, and a lot of times it comes from folks in your own party or politically motivated. And time again, I have to continue to rise up. I have to continue to show that I know what I'm talking about. And as long as you're looking out for the people, you should be fine. And that's what I've always done. I've always looked out on the side of the people and my neighbors, and fortunately, they've stuck by me.
That's awesome.
That's been, again, very rewarding in and of itself. But yes, it just this year again, running against an incumbent town supervisor that I had extreme reservations about and how the town was being run, and defeating him in a primary, and then subsequently running in the general election. It was a lot of hurdles that we had to overcome to get to this point, and now I got to prove myself.
Yeah, and congratulations on all that, and looking forward to seeing that journey for you and how you will be able to prove yourself. But I think that you have in a number of great ways, and definitely want to talk about the history aspect in a moment. Again, you're listening to In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's award-winning public affairs and issues program. We are speaking with Joey Cavaccini, Dutchess County Legislator, Wappinger Town Historian, and Town of Wappinger Town Supervisor. We've been talking about kind of his history in getting these positions and how he's been able to work his way up. But with somebody with such a wealth of knowledge, we got to dive into some of that knowledge here now. You kind of alluded a little bit on it already, talking about Dutchess County, and you even said about that general that led during the Revolutionary War for the Dutchess County area. Let's go back a little bit. You're the town historian for Wappinger, but you also cover a lot of Dutchess County stuff as a whole, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who would be interested to hear some of this history. How far back does Dutchess County technically go?
Well, I mean, well, that's a loaded question too, because before the European settlers came in, we were inhabited by the Wappinger Native Americans, and they inhabited this land for well over 10,000 years before the European settlers even showed up, and that's very important to acknowledge right off the bat. Then, what we start to see is actually the town of Wappinger becomes the first settled town in the county in 1659,
Really?
And that's an interesting story too. Is illegally settled.
Oh, please tell.
1659. Back then, there was a group of French Christians that were being persecuted over in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And in hopes of seeking religious freedom, they fled their colony, sailed up the Hudson River, and found this nice big wide open bay at the mouth of the Wappinger Creek before it was filled in by the railroad. And they settled for about a month or so and created this small little encampment on the bluffs overlooking the Hudson River. And they did not receive any permission from the Dutch authorities that occupied the state of New York at the time. Oh. And so when the Dutch authorities were sailing up to Albany, they noticed this encampment and were subsequently sent back, and their plans were rejected to build there. And so it was the first illegal settlement in the town of Wappinger, dating back to 1659. From there, we have the Rombaught Patent, which is the first legal land purchase of 85,000 acres of land, which includes Fishkill, Beacon, Wappinger, East Fishkill, parts of Poughkeepsie, parts of LaGrange. And that was purchased by Francis Rombaught and Goulian Verplanck from the Wappinger Native Americans. We actually have a deed from them.
Oh, really?
Dating back to most of southern Dutchess County.
Where does that currently reside?
Well, we have copies of it. I don't know where the exact one is.
I was curious. Wow, that goes back.
Yeah. We do have copies for sale at the Messier Homestead gift shop in the village of Wappingers Falls. But again, that's important to acknowledge too, that the Europeans purchased that land, in 1683. Fast forward a few years, and then a lot of folks don't realize that Fishkill was capital of New York State during the American Revolution.
Was it?
Yeah. In 1776. Wow. It was the New York Provincial Congress that had established a temporary capital there after fleeing White Plains. They established a capital there because Fishkill was the crossroads of the American Revolution. You had the first post office in the state of New York in Fishkill. You had the supply depot encampment for George Washington's Continental Army in Fishkill. And so they actually established that first at the Trinity Church in Fishkill, then at the Dutch Reformed Church in Fishkill. And a lot of folks don't realize, again, going back to that Rombaught Patent, that East Fishkill, Wappinger, Beacon, that was all part of the town of Fishkill. So that whole area was considered the capital at the time.
Oh, wow.
So there was a lot of Revolutionary War activities going on. This area was filled with patriots for the most part. except for one family up in that was now the village of Wappingers Falls. I gave a little plug for the Messier homestead before.
Yeah.
The Messier family ends up moving up here in 1777, really in the heart of the Revolution. They were loyalists, actually. They moved up here, ironically, after the British burned down their properties in Lower Manhattan.
And they were still loyal.
They were still loyal to the crown.
Wow.
You've heard of the Boston Tea Party,
Yeah.
right, Connor?
Yep.
I believe everyone listening is probably well familiar with the Boston Tea Party. Well, are you familiar with the Wappinger Tea Party?
No, not at all. Tell us.
So we had the Wappinger Tea Party. So these loyalists, Peter Messier and his family, they opened up a store in the Messier homestead, small little general store, and they charged the king's tax on tea.
Okay.
Which obviously angered the residents of the greater Fishkill-Wappinger area. And it was a 3-day-long event in May of 1777, in which the first day these group of protesters tried to steal the tea. The second day, they threatened to kill Peter Messier.
Oh, wow.
And the third day, they broke down the front door to the homestead, tied Peter, his wife, and his 2 enslaved persons in the basement,
Wow.
drank all their wine, took all their tea, and they left the amount of money that they felt was appropriate. And that was the Wappinger Tea Party.
Wow.
You could say after that, Peter Messier had a change in his political views a little bit.
Maybe forcibly. But
Yes.
Yeah.
and became a well-respected member of the community. But that's always an interesting tidbit there that we had a Wappinger Tea Party. We had.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
So-
Yeah, no, that's interesting because obviously I feel like every second grade class is very well versed when it comes to the Boston Tea Party. But that's a story that I haven't heard until today.
Yeah.
The fact that, no, I had no idea about that. So it's interesting that you say that this was a crossroads during the American Revolution and everything. How long was the Fishkill area considered a capital for?
Again, very short period of time. It was before they moved it up to Poughkeepsie and then Kingston.
Yep.
But it was just a short period of time there that basically in 1776 that they were able to kind of keep the provincial Congress, afloat and keep things moving from that perspective. So it was a short period of time, but Fishkill, throughout the duration of the war, from 1776 a year into 1783, was a military supply depot and encampment, very strategic for George Washington and his army.
Wow. So one thing that you mentioned, I knew that Poughkeepsie and Kingston were capitals at one point, but based on what you said there, it clicked in my mind. It keeps going north.
Mm-hmm.
How come it keeps going north? Is that because of the way that things were going at the war at the time, where trying to just find safety when it came to the river? How did that work?
Along those lines, yes, but just trying to find the right space for it. Kingston, becomes the first legal capital of New York State when the Constitution's ratified in 1788. A lot of people don't realize too that the United States Constitution, New York ratifying it, occurred right on Market Street in the city of Poughkeepsie. That scene from Hamilton happened right here in Poughkeepsie. So that's a very important thing to note. But really, it was just trying to find the right location, I think.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. That's really cool. What do you think of Hamilton? Historically accurate enough for
I
you?
mean, it was pretty good. It's also a great show.
It's a fictional. There's enough fiction woven in there, too.
Yes,
but
yeah.
It gets the main points in.
It does. It gets the main points across, but yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So by the time that everything becomes ratified, and here we have the United States now. It's coming together. The 13 colonies are now creating their own nation. What did that look like for the Fishkill and Wappinger area? Did they start breaking apart into its different pieces? Was it still a united front? What did that look like in a post-revolution world at that point?
Well, again, the area was still primarily agricultural.
Okay.
And it wasn't until we really get to the Industrial Revolution that you start to see the towns seceding, off from each other, especially just in this area here. Just to put things in perspective, too, the village of Wappingers Falls, city of Beacon, the city of Poughkeepsie were widely industrial centers of community. The village of Wappingers Falls at one point in time had 25-plus factories in it. And in fact, the first pair of blue jeans were made in the village of Wappingers Falls by Sweetore and Company in 1871.
Really?
Yes.
The first ever blue jeans?
Yes.
Like ever, not just
Yes.
like for New York or the area,
No.
ever?
Yes.
Wow, that's
Yes.
an interesting thing to go off of.
Yes, beat out Levi Strauss. So we are the birthplace of blue jeans in the village of Wappingers Falls. But again, you had all sorts of different pieces of industry, coming to the area, especially Poughkeepsie, specifically. You had Smith Brothers cough drops. You had all sorts of different things in the city of Poughkeepsie that shaped the course of the area that we see it today. There's a reason why we have so many row houses and such a congestion around the city of Poughkeepsie with our old buildings. They were built to house those that worked in the factories.
Absolutely. And they were truly built to last because a lot of those buildings are still around and have been refitted. I feel like you could easily just go down the street and get a history lesson of each building in the area because there's so much going on. I think one of the big things about the Poughkeepsie area, everything going on around here, one thing I was told constantly was it was like a center spot when it came to the train, of course.
Yes.
The Poughkeepsie train station is huge. It's modeled after Grand Central. It's essentially a mini Grand Central in a way. And, it's right in between Albany and New York City, big place of commerce right on the river. So do you have anything that you want to add on with that, where that geographical location helped build that industry?
The Hudson River Valley itself is very strategic. Our geographical location between the state capital and the world's biggest city, it is very important. And that has shaped the area. There's a reason why we are the way we are, and not like a place in Kansas. Geography, location comes down to why we are the way we are. Again, the industrialization of the area. We had the railroad. We had the dayliner, which were ships that came up, to the area. Again, very significant. We had the Poughkeepsie Highland Railroad Bridge, which is today's walkway over the Hudson, which connected the train corridor through the Northeast. I mean, that was huge. As you continue to move forward into the 20th century, we became the home of the President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, right here in Hyde Park.
Every street reminds you of that.
Yes, yes.
Every other street says Roosevelt Lane or something.
Yeah, and really, when you get into World War II, we were the guinea pig of sorts for a lot of WPA and New Deal projects. You just have to walk around the city of Poughkeepsie, see the Poughkeepsie Post Office, Poughkeepsie Journal Building. In the village of Wappingers Falls, we have Wappingers Falls Junior High School and old post office, now police station. City Beacon, same thing with their post office. And we became these little guinea pig towns from a World War II perspective, back then because of the President of the United States lived here.
Yeah, so if he's right here, that has a lot of influence. Yeah, I believe my first introduction to all that was learning a lot of like the Hyde Park schools. Some of them came out of that whole system, I believe. If I could be very wrong, but Viola Avenue School, I thought, came out of that time frame. Haviland, but that was originally the high school, I think. Like little things like that, and it's just kind of crazy to think that they had those origins, So I think that's impressive. Again, you're listening to In Touch, Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley's award-winning public affairs and issues program. We're speaking with Joey Cavaccini, Dutchess County Legislator, Wappinger Town Historian, and Town Supervisor of the town of Wappinger. We've been talking about a lot of the history of Dutchess County, going back to pre-revolution, talking a little bit about that revolution time, industrial revolution, and we were just getting into a little bit of the 20th century when it came to the New Deal. Joey, you're definitely somebody we got to have on again because there is so much information that we could go into. I feel like we're just scratching the surface on so much. And I feel a lot of people would love to hear some of this information. We're talking right now, and I'm like, I had no idea about that. It's like, wow, wait, tell me more. And I'm unfortunately forcibly having to look at the clock because this is a timed program and everything. It's like, darn it. But this is fantastic. So, Joey, before you go anywhere, before we wrap up, where can people reach out to you and find you, whether it has to do with anything in regard to your position as the town historian or as the town supervisor? Where do people hit you up?
Right now, we are in the process of taking office as town supervisor, so that will take effect on January 1st. If anyone needs anything, you can find me on Facebook, on my website, josephcavaccini.com, the Dutchess County website while I'm still county legislator, and as well as on the Town of Wappinger website. So folks can connect with me. I try to be very accessible. You can usually see me around town, and I'm always happy to chat about what's going on around town in Wappinger.
That's awesome. Before we completely wrap up now, do you have any last little nugget for the people who are listening here on In Touch? Something to do with the community, something to do with history, anything. Any last little nugget you want to leave with them?
Oh, geez, now you're putting me on the spot. I don't know. Really what I got to tell folks is, if you ever have any questions, always get involved. Always, stop by your local historical society. We're entering into the holiday season, so a lot of our historic sites from Vanderbilt, Roosevelt, Locust Grove, our smaller historical sites like Mizzier Homestead, the Brinkerhoff House out in East Fishkill, the Van Wyck Homestead in Fishkill, Adam Brett, they're all doing Christmas holiday tours, so I encourage you to, stop by one of those. Reach out to the Dutchess County Historical Society. These are all great agencies that offer a great wealth of information. So if you have any questions, you're interested, get involved. We have great agencies here in the area that will help you out.
That's terrific. And you're right. The holiday season is a really great time for these tours. Mm-hmm. They do these houses or estates or buildings, whatever it is, so nicely decorated for the holidays, but then at the same time you get this awesome history. Doesn't have to necessarily deal with the holidays, but it just gets you in the door and it gets you learning more. Exactly. I remember the very first tour like that I ever did was the Locust Grove tour. I think I was like 3 or 4 at the time. Yeah. I was young. I lost my Rudolph toy there. We had to go back the next day. But it was a really cool thing. And for being only 3 or 4, I still remember a decent amount from it, which is really neat. It lasts. It stays with you. So as Joey said, take advantage of that this holiday season. We have a wealth of history and great opportunities and activities around here. And if you want any more information or you need to get a hold of Joey, any of the programs that he's a part of, we'll have the links and information in the description of this episode. Joey, again, thank you so much for being here on In Touch. We hope to have you on again.
Thank you so much, Connor. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
This has been this week's edition of In Touch, the award-winning public affairs and issues program that runs across Townsquare Media, the Hudson Valley radio stations. We want to give a big thank you to Joey Cavaccini. For more information about the Wappinger Historical Society, visit wappingerhistoricalsociety.org. To contact Joey Cavaccini through the Dutchess County Legislature, visit dutchessny.gov. To learn more about the man himself, Joseph Cavaccini, visit josephcavaccini.com. Of course, all links and information can be found in the description of this episode. Whether you've been listening for a while or you just joined us, thank you. You can find In Touch episodes new and old on your favorite streaming services like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. That and listen on demand with your Townsquare radio station mobile app. Of course, you can still find all articles and audio under the In Touch tab on this radio station's app and website. And don't forget, we're also on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at InTouch_HV. If you like what we do here on In Touch and want to be on the show, let us know. Whether you have a topic you want discussed or you want to be a guest, the best way to contact us is through our office number 845-471-1500 or email direct to connor.walsh@townsquaremedia.com. I've been your host, Connor Walsh. Until next time, stay curious, keep an open mind, and as always, I'm glad we get to spend some time.